My name is Tong and I am from Big Centre TV. We broadcast in the West Midlands. We're on Freeview Channel 7, Virgin 159, and we also stream live on bigcentre.tv. For those of you who don't know our history, we're the phoenix that rose from the ashes of the previous company who won the license, BLTV, but went into administration, and we were eventually awarded the license, and now we're in our second year of broadcasting. I won't say it's been easy. In fact, we were only given 3 months from the award of the license to go on air. Now, if you think about that, we had no staff, no equipment, and no studio. So I think we did okay. There was a few headless chicken moments. In fact, there was quite a lot of headless chicken moments. And the odd black screen as well. But despite that, we're still here. And we're getting bigger. And we're getting better. As a company, we very, very quickly learned that we have to adapt ourselves to the circumstances that come along. For instance, I started off as a producer of content. That was my official title. But over the time, I have adapted and used various skills that I've acquired in my career. In fact, I can thank Jane Green, who I spent 2014 touring around schools and academies in the West Midlands as part of the RTS education project. And one of her main bullet points on her speeches was transferable skills. I am now the classic example of someone who has drawn on every single facet of my career to get to me where I am today. It's been fascinating to do it. The one thing that anyone joining a company like Big Centre has to understand from the get-go is the word multitasking. I'm sure some of you who have your own production companies are familiar with this, but it's something that we do on a daily basis. As I mentioned before, I started as a producer of content. But on day 2, I was approached and asked to be an editor of my own content. And now, I had experience of that before, so it was something that I willingly undertook. Further down the line, by chance on one day of a programme that I was producing, the presenter was taken ill. So I stepped into the breach and took over as being the presenter. Now, that show, I write it, I produce it, I present it, and I edit it. Quite an interesting time some days. Due to the original commitment on the license, the news coverage excuse me, was quite extensive. But to cover that, we have a very active news department. In fact, somebody happened to mention to me earlier that they came to visit us one day and couldn't believe the vibe, the excitement that was going on in this room when all the VJs were there. We have 3 full-time VJs who go out and get various stories, along with our head of news, Bob Hall, who I'm sure most of you will know from Central and ATV and Sky and whatever else. And we also have a 2-man sports department, which now broadcasts from Edgbaston Cricket Ground. We've recently introduced a freelance project where we use packages filmed by freelance journalists who go out, they film them, they edit them, they voice over them, and they send them back into us. And we're actively looking to expand this. We've just started to advertise, and we're getting a really, really good response to that. And it gives us that opportunity to go a little bit more into the hyper-local situation where we can have somebody who's in a specific area and pick up on certain news things that we can't possibly cover ourselves. And the most noticeable thing in the news is the increase in emails and contacts that we're getting from people who want us to cover charity events, various things that local news is all about. The big companies can't do that. We know for a fact that the BBC want us to do things like that because they just don't have the time to be able to cover it. But we can. And our news show's developed into more like a magazine-style show, where we have my show, which is What's On. We have a little segment of that every day, and it's become very, very popular, as well as live studio interviews. And as an example, the other week we interviewed a local Muslim cleric who was part of a project that were going to be serving food to the homeless in Walsall. And we also sent a reporter out. That is now our most watched piece on social media. It's actually gone right through the roof. So it's one of those situations where we can dedicate a 5 or 10 minute interview where the big channels can't. And it's getting a great response. And I think it's what local TV is all about. Our main studio is based in Walsall, and it's within the Walsall Studio School. Now, there are two of my colleagues from the Walsall Studio School today. And we encourage them, the students, to get involved in what we do. One of their BTEC award-winning pupil from last year started working with us. He started as a cameraman. He then became a vision director. And he's since gone on to do stuff with the BBC. That was just from a little inquiry one day when he was passing by. Two of their pupils have just started doing the same thing with us. They're now out doing packages for news. And one of the girls in particular has decided to delay going to university for a year so she can get hands-on experience. All looks great on the CV. We've recently become part of Barb, although it's early days, but initially we're picking up that we're getting figures of around $250,000 a week. So this is pretty much without doing a great amount of advertising. We are stepping that up, but when you're a small company, you have to prioritise where the money goes. But we are now going to be building on that. But certain shows, for example, one of the shows that I produce called Amped, with a DJ from Kerrang called Johnny Doom, it's a rock show, we're finding that the audience, 90% of the audience watch it online and on our YouTube channel, where we have bands who come on to do interviews and we put their interview on our YouTube channel. Bands are coming from all over the country. We've had bands drive from Glasgow to do a 7-minute interview, from London, from Cardiff, from Norwich, because it goes online. And it's one of the only good quality rock shows. And they put the time and effort to come and actually visit us, which is fantastic. And it's one of those things, I think, I noticed there was an RTS email not long ago. Is television going the same way as the music industry and media? Well, if you use it to your advantage, there's nothing wrong with that. We know that certain things like the news and doorstep history that we do gets a great reaction from local viewers because of a certain age. They like to see that sort of thing. They're not online. But the average age of Johnny Doom's show, they want to see it online. They're out partying when we go on air, but they will come and watch it on catch-up, or they'll watch it, stream it live, or on YouTube. Our content comes from various sources. We've got at least 7 in-house productions, but we also take content from other local TV channels. We do swaps, so some of our programmes are shown in Norwich and Nottingham and Sheffield and wherever. And we also take independent production companies' product. We're now a truly 24-hour channel. In fact, just recently, we've changed our overnight from being a shopping channel, and we're now starting to show old versions of Dragnet and the Beverly Hillbillies. And also we have an exciting new daytime show coming up, which is coming from the BBC. I can't tell you details because we'd have to lock you in here, and Jane says we can't afford to pay for too long. But that's coming up, and also one from the originators of Robot Wars as well. So it's great to know that the big people are starting to recognise that local TV does have a place, and they're utilising it. That's about it, really. I hope you've enjoyed hearing about it. I've got a short promo which I'd like to show you. I will be around later, so if anybody wants to come up and have a chat, please don't be afraid, and I look forward to speaking to you.